Hi, I'm Melinda Van Fleet, and welcome to the Good Karma Success Coach podcast. I'm an author, speaker, and success coach who helps women believe in themselves, build confidence, and take action. In 2009, my husband Ryan and I were laid off at the same time, and we moved to the Florida Keys without jobs, not knowing anyone, hardly any money, and we never even been here. But we made it. And now, not every day is sunshine and rainbows, but we're living our best lives. All along in our journey, I've always said that someday when we get our shit together, we will help others. So each week, my intent is to be relatable and bring you tactical tips, tools, share my learnings and stories that can help inspire or transform you wherever you are in your career or general life and make an impact. I strongly believe that if I can do it, you can do it too. So what's stopping you? Hi, everyone. Welcome to this week's Good Karma Success Coach podcast. Thank you in advance for tuning in. Wow, this has been a crazy morning. So where do I begin? Yesterday, Wednesday, September 8th, I held my first free masterclass in a private Facebook group. There are so many learnings and hindsights that I really wish to share and feel called to share. Hence why I'm jumping on the mic first thing Thursday morning, because the mind loops won't stop. Originally, I decided to do a meditation podcast this Sunday because someone had asked me a question about meditation, and I feel that there's information out there, and I feel that within boundaries, I should just make it a podcast and help people on a bigger scale. And there was a lot of thought process in that, and I had thought of that with my human brain. But what I come to realize this morning is that my higher self is telling me I need to recap the process that I have been going through really since January about launching courses, because there is someone out there that needs to hear this information, that needs to hear these stories and these tips and tools to help them, because that's really what's needed. And people can find stuff on meditation on YouTube all day long. There's tons of shit out there. Fill your boots. And maybe I'll talk about it in the future. But this is going to be a several part podcast, because when I was on my morning walk and it kept coming through me what I should share, I was like, oh my gosh, Spirit, this is a ton of information and I'm going to have to chunk it up, because otherwise people are going to be like, okay, Melinda, this is the longest podcast in the world. Really? I have work to do. I have to do laundry. I have to go to the grocery store. So I'm going to chunk it up into sections, and just bear with me. We'll see how it goes. And I am releasing this part 1 immediately today, which is Thursday the 9th. And then I'll record part 2 for Sunday, which is my normal scheduled release time. And then we'll just kind of see. We'll see how I feel. We'll flow with it. I'm going to maybe swear once in a while, because that sometimes happens. And I don't want to feel held back on anything. And I'm going to really be super transparent, super authentic. If you feel you are someone that is mentioned in this podcast, even though I didn't mention your name, please know that this story is being shared for the greater good. And if you were a trigger, it's a positive thing, and I love you. And I'm so grateful. I'm tearing up. I'm so grateful for the trigger, because it's made me better and stronger, and I can help more people, because I'm sure someone else has the same thing. So again, if you feel you're someone that is in one of these podcasts, even though your name's not mentioned, but you can hear the story and you know it's you, know it's with love from the bottom of my heart, and there is nothing negative in the story. It's just part of the story and part of life and part of growing and evolving, and something that needs to be shared. What else was I going to say as a prelude? Swearing, your name. And, I might just come off the cuff as a little polarizing here or there. So I'm just going to roll with that too, because that's me. Sometimes I am. Sometimes what I say isn't exactly perfect. And, maybe that's one reason that sometimes I struggled in the corporate world, because I can see through a lot of behavior and people and things, and it's just part of my human design. And now that I have really embodied human design, I'm a student of human design. It doesn't mean I'm perfectly in all the knowledge. That's not what I mean, but I embody it and I live in my design, which is a 3-5 pure generator with a 51 gate. It's, there's a lot there. And there's a lot there in my gates and channels that I've really come to recognize. And this is something that if you work with me, private coaching, or even take my 12-week program, it's something that I will embody and infuse into the teachings and into the learnings, because I really believe in human design and really believe that once you start to understand how you are designed and that you are perfect and that living in your design helps you through your life with more ease and flow, that, just magic things happen. So that's just kind of another piece of it. So if something comes out a little polarizing, just know that I have some gates and channels and that I'm working on that, but sometimes it's just going to let it fly. So it just is what it is. And if you know me, I pick on myself and have a very big sense of humor. And so that's kind of a piece of it too. It all kind of goes together. So here we go. I have been delivering free content since April of 2019 with this podcast, which used to be called Good Karma Life Coach. I also have been working behind the scenes with my husband on all of the free content that he delivers, which has been his podcast since August of 2018, so 3 years for that podcast. I believe strongly in the coaching industry. I believe strongly in online coaching. I believe strongly in paying for a coach and investing in yourself. I believe strongly in delivering free content to help people. I believe strongly in offering lower ticket courses to help people in programs, books, Audible, and high ticket programs. I love to make money. I love to give money away. I'm extremely generous. It is also part of my design. And I believe that money is energy. So with all of that being said, I felt going into 2021 that it was time to start doing courses and programs. People can learn a lot from courses and programs. I have bought more courses and programs than I could ever possibly count or remember. I pretty much, oh my God, it runs the gamut. And in my opinion, there's really no competition in that lane because everyone has a different spin on their niche. I have 4 programs and courses on speaking. Actually, it might be 5. I might even forget one, right? So, seriously. And they're all different. I've learned from all different people. And that can go for Instagram, Pinterest, a course program, anything. So I also feel that one of my zones of genius is helping people through triggers. Why is that? Because I am someone who grew up and has been heavily triggered in my life. And also my husband has too. We have been open about it. I have shared a lot of free content around it. I infuse it in what I talk about. I infuse it in coaching. I infuse it in my life. And it is something that can really hold you back in your life energetically in regards to manifestation if you do not work on your triggers. And also you just want to feel good even too, like even taking away the thoughts of manifestation, that everyone talks about. Like, it's just, we want to feel good, bottom line, and that's part of it. So I felt in January when I started to work on putting together a course or program that I could easily coach and do a program on triggers. And I thought of the name Trigger Detox, and I was excited. I was like, oh, that's kind of a catchy little name, Trigger Detox. And I started to put some things together. At the same time, John Lee Dumas came out with his book, and I listened to his book on Audible. It's very good. I really like the book because he shares a lot about himself that you don't normally get through his podcast because he's always doing interviews. So it was actually a really good book. And in the book, he gives the advice, which I'd heard before, but I'm just using this book as a frame of reference, that when you go to launch a course, you should ask others for their opinion. Primarily your audience is what he was getting at. Your audience for their opinion to see if it's a valid idea before you go down the path of creating the course and creating the content and doing all the marketing. And Amy Porterfield is another very successful online entrepreneur who teaches that as well. And she was also interviewed in the book. So it's like a combination of these two very successful online entrepreneurs talking about this as a strategy. And I was like, okay, that's cool. I appreciate the information. However, I'm not John Lee Dumas and I'm not Amy Porterfield. So I don't have like a ginormous audience yet. So who do I ask, right? Because right now I had just realized in February that my Facebook profile wasn't even public. I'm pretty new to being online because I was hiding because I was afraid to get fired from my sales job. So technically, I don't really know who my audience is. When you podcast, you're kind of speaking to the ethers. Some weeks are better than others, so technically my audience is kind of peers and friends and family. And, that's kind of what I got right now. That's what I am working with in January of 2021. So I go down the path and I start to create the sales page. And at the time I had been paying for a marketing coach. It was a 6-month deal working with her. The contract was 6 months. And I was like, okay, I'll ask her her opinion and ask her to help with the sales page, which she did. She liked the name. She didn't have any negative feedback or anything, points of concern, nothing. It was just making the sales page stronger in terms of the verbiage. I asked a mastermind group that I'm in for their opinion. And everyone's like, that's, lots of opportunity there. People really struggle with triggers. That's a great idea. So I'm like, okay, that's good. I asked a tarot card reader during a tarot card reading. I just said, what do you think of this name? And she pulled cards and used her intuition. And she's like, that's great. You have lots of opportunity there. I'm like, okay. And I also asked one of my other friends who is in the space, who I highly admire and really love her opinion on things. And she also gets information from the universe as well and is intuitive. So I asked all these people and everyone was saying, this is a great idea. I love the name Trigger Detox, and, gave maybe some little tips here and there. But for the most part, it was good to go. So I kept down the path of marketing. And another thing that I decided to do was not have everyone go into a private Facebook group for the class. Instead, I wanted to try something a little different and just put a Zoom link in my marketing and especially in my newsletter. And I sent out several newsletters during the course of the time and kept including a Zoom link. So I kind of went against the grain, really only because I just feel there's so many Facebook groups out there. And I was like, ugh, another Facebook group. So I had a little bit of yuckiness, not necessarily a trigger against Facebook groups, but just kind of like yucky. I was like, ugh, I just like the Facebook group thing and so many, and I keep getting invited to all these people's Facebook groups, and I don't really want to be in all these Facebook groups. And then lots of Facebook group stuff. So I was like, you know what, I'm going to try it with a Zoom link and see how it goes. So that was just me experimenting on my own and trying to avoid something that just was not feeling so good. So what ends up happening is the morning of the masterclass, I take my morning walk as usual. And as I'm returning home, as I'm walking up my street, I get hit with this huge wave of like an anxiety, like, and all of a sudden it comes to me that I don't feel good about accepting people's money. Out of nowhere. I was like having money thoughts and yuckiness and a little bit of triggery around money with doing this course. And I was like, this is so weird and not good. I was like, this is the day of the masterclass. What? I want to sell the program and, I know I can help people. And I was just like, what is going on? So I literally stopped in the middle of my street and just started breathing. That I give myself permission to charge for this information. I give myself permission to charge for this information. And I had to work through that trigger, that yuckiness, because that just came out of nowhere. I was like, what's going on? So I go through my day, and if you follow me, you know that when I have something big, I do a really good job of just making sure my day is very clear. I don't have any other big projects. I like to have a lot of time to meditate and just get my thoughts together. And I do this regularly. So whenever I have something kind of big, I make sure that my day is very easy, that not a lot of things are going to jack up the day. So I have like my easy day. It comes time for the masterclass, and I'm really excited. I set up my studio, which is upstairs. So whenever you see me in front of blue, that's actually paper that I bought on Amazon. So it's these big rolls of paper, and then there's this like a real, like a, what's the word, like a rod system, kind of like a big clothes rack, drying rack type of thing. So you just get on Amazon, and if you want that information, you can message me. Maybe I'll put it in the show notes. But it just really helps, because I'm not a fan of those Zoom backgrounds, because I tend to be very animated, and then also my arms missing. So, and I don't like the fake ones that, you know, you're on a yacht. It's just kind of goofy for me. For everyone else, that's cool. But for me, I just want plain blue. So, and I want all my arms to be showing. So anyhow, so I set up my thing. I'm really excited. I'm ready to go. Take my deep breaths, and I put it on the Zoom, and I'm sitting there, and I'm my lighting's good. My hair's okay. I'm like, okay, we're good. And no one shows up. Crickets. Stereotypical first time course program that you hear about, that you read about. Crickets. And I got this just huge knowing that trigger detox was way too heavy for people to sign up for. It was just way too heavy. And there's probably other reasons too, like still a small audience, still a first time. Obviously, I had some money issues around there. Obviously, I did it with a Zoom link instead of a Facebook group. You know, who knows? So that's why I'm sharing all of this, because, you know, there's just lots of things that go into being an online coach, online entrepreneur, or just being an entrepreneur, business person in general. There's so many things. And it's good if you can be aware of them, so you kind of nip them along, because that's what it is. You have to like work on these things. You have to work on these things. You have to be aware of them, and you have to nip them. So there's less and less and less, or you move through them faster and faster and faster, or a combination, whatever, right? It's when you sit in the trigger and you get all pissed off that just really like jacks you up. So after 15 minutes, I had my quote unquote come to Jesus, and like, yep, crickets. Shutting down the Zoom, moving on with my day. And what ended up happening, which is still kind of funny when I look at it, is I ended up still sitting in the space upstairs, the studio area. I ended up pulling up my email. And the first email I see, I kid you not, is from Amy Porterfield. I'm on her mailing list. I can't remember what I signed up for, but something. I'm on her mailing list. And she had just decided to open up Digital Course Academy for like 3 days. I might have my days wrong a little bit, but just like a special, like opening up the, what do they call it? Not the bucket, but anyhow, the program for 3 days. And normally she launches it in the fall. And she decided to do this special little opening. And so, yeah, I signed up. I was like, well, if this is a sign from the universe that I need some help in putting together my course, then I guess I'm just going to do it. So I signed up for her course, and it's a good course. Do I think all the content has been for me per se? No. However, she does have an exercise in the course in regards to naming your course, and that exercise was really good. And that's how I came up with, on my own, From Stuck to Success, which I then went and got the URL for, and I use From Stuck to Success in my marketing. So I haven't called a program that yet, but I use that in my marketing a lot, and that I derived from the exercise that she has people do in the course. So I always feel like if I get like something out of a course right away, whether it's free or $2,000 like this course was, there's always a win. And then go back and revisit a course later. You might get something else out of it. These courses are courses that you have for a lifetime, and every time they relaunch it, they, normally add something new. So she is definitely one of those online coaches that does that. So I knew that, it would be a good investment. So anyhow, that was kind of funny. I opened up the cart. That's the word I wanted to use. She opened up the cart for 3 days as a special. So I kind of felt, that the universe was telling me I needed a little bit more work on the launching of a course. So anyhow, so this podcast, I am going to cut here because I believe in my heart and my soul that this is long enough for part 1. But I will say that after that learning, I just mentally took a break. I didn't have a breakdown. I didn't cry. I was I was just like aware. I was like, okay, I just really ignored my higher self. I really didn't listen. I really spent time listening to humans I love, but it wasn't the best route. And I need to do what feels good for me, and I need to stick on that path. So after that, so that was, I think, March week 1. I don't even remember the dates. I kind of moved on. So it's kind of interesting to recap it. But I was like, okay, I need to work on marketing my first book, and then writing my second book, and then also finishing up working with that marketing coach because she always had homework. So I really wanted to focus and do a good job with her and learn as much as I could. So those just became my focuses. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to take a break from the course thing. I'm going to also obviously do Amy's course and see what I can learn, which I did. And it's a drip course. So that also is part of it. And I'm just going to, put the idea of launching a program just on the back burner. I'm not going to give up. I'm not quitting, but I'm going to put it on the back burner, going to work on these other things, see how I feel more towards early fall, and retool the concept, retool the ideas, retool the whole process, and see what comes out of me, in 4 or 5 months. So that's where I'm at with this podcast as part 1. And I hope you liked it. And I hope you got something from it. So I do. I mean, that is my intention. And that is why I feel really called to release it right away and to do this podcast series on walking everyone through the whole mental game of, is anyone going to show up to my new course? Because if you are someone that does online courses, you've either been there, I can bet you, or this is something that's holding you back from starting. Or if you're in the process like me as a newbie, you're going through a lot of this mindset work too. Like you're wondering, is anyone going to show up? Am I doing this the right way? And I'm using quotations as I sit here at the computer. Am I doing this the right way? So the right way is figuring out what feels good for you. And some of it is trial and error and just going with the flow. So the next podcast will be the triggers that led up to the masterclass for last night. So very interesting. And I haven't shared this with anyone. Ryan doesn't even know. So I will share it on the podcast in intention to help other people. I also wanted to quickly say that the private Facebook group with the masterclass from last night is still open until 9/14, which will be next Tuesday. And I will put the link in the show notes. So you're more than welcome. I would love to see you in the private Facebook group to soak up that masterclass. And then after that, it will convert to people that have paid to be in the course, which is the Content Creation Success Strategies 12-week program that I talked about in the beginning part of this podcast, and I will put the link for that program in the show notes as well. So that's what I've got for today. Till next time, be grateful, be curious, always be learning, and you know what? Have some fun too. Thanks for listening. Bye.